So this is our 14th meetup, and the topic for the day is Introduction to RPA, as you guys can see, and this is part one. So we'll be having everything covered from the basics of RPA. Yeah. I'll start with the safe harbor statement. So, both the speaker and the host are organizing this meetup in individual capacity only. We are not representing our companies here. This presentation is strictly for learning purposes only. Organizer or presenter do not hold any responsibility that the same solution will work for your business requirements. The presentation is not meant for any promotional activities. So as you all know, the session will be and it will be available in the meetup page, and we have enabled the QA session. So please put your questions in the Q&A session so that we can answer all of them. And right now, you guys might not be able to speak, but if required, please put a message so we can enable that as well. Let's make this an interactive session. Sam would love that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And please give us the feedback. It is very important. And for this session, we'll be having a part two in the upcoming month. So please provide your suggestions as well. About the organizers, myself, I'm Fathima Farzana, and I work at NJC Labs. I'm a MuleSoft developer, and I have around 5 years of experience. My co-organizers are Anoop, John, and we have a new joiner, Fajnu. Anoop, would you like to give your intro?
Hi everyone. So my name is Anoop. I'm working as an integration architect for NGC Labs for 4 years now, and I'm also involved in meetup groups like Calicut, and then I do speak in meetup. So that's a bit about me. And thanks everyone for joining the session again. And thanks so much for accepting our invite uh, to to present a bit of a complex topics in MuleSoft world. Yep. Thank you so much. Over to you, John.
Yeah, thanks Anup. Thanks Fatima. Hi everyone, myself John. Been working with NJC for the last around 5 years as an integration developer. So yeah, looking forward to the meeting like everyone else, and special thanks to Sam, for having accepted this meeting. And yeah, thank you everyone for joining, especially on a weekend. Yeah, thank you, Fatima.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, John, Anoop. Fajnu?
Fajni, you might. Yeah.
Yeah, she's here.
Yeah, I just gave her the presenter access. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Thank you, Anoop. Thank you, John, Fatima, and Sam for joining. My name is Fajnu, and I'm a MuleSoft developer here in NGC Labs. And today, this is my first meetup. And as an organizer, thank you so much. And thank you for everybody for joining today and looking for an interactive session. Thank you.
Welcome, Fajnu. Okay. Uh, Okay, Sam, you can take over from now. And before we start, thank you so much for coming up and accepting, and for the wonderful sessions that you're going to give. And I'm sure this is going to help a lot of people.
Yeah, thank you. Fatima, can we enable mics for everyone, like, or enable chat for everyone? Because I
Sure.
think let's have more discussions on it.
Yes.
Uh,
So, yeah.
Yes,
let's make
yes, I
it
can do that.
that way. Yeah. So, hello, hi everyone. My name is
I'll.
Sam. Yeah, yeah,
Sorry to interrupt. I'll stop sharing, and maybe you can
yeah,
take
yeah,
over from
yeah,
here onwards. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt. Yeah. Thank you.
yeah, yeah. No worries. I mean that I will not start with that slide anyhow. So,
Okay.
so that's
Okay.
one way. So, hello, hi everyone. My name is Sam, and I am working as an integration developer for NGC. And other infos about me you already saw on the screen. So, let's make a move. Right. So, the idea of today's meeting is to discuss on the following agendas that you see on the screen. Firstly, am I audible enough for everyone? I just wanted to check that, and if my screen is visible before I start talking, and if it's not.
Yes, Sam. All good. All good.
Perfect, perfect. Great. So the idea of today's meetup is to understand the basics of RPA. So when we discussed about it, we thought that let's go into the basics of RPA. So that is what we will do today. So we would see what is an RPA, why is MuleSoft promoting RPA, what does RPA do, the use cases. So there are two kinds of use cases for RPA: the actual use case and the forced use case. So we will see what the actual use cases are, and we would also see the applications that RPA requires for you to work on this uh, on 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 the MuleSoft RPA side, the life cycle that it goes through, and how MuleSoft RPA can be integrated within MuleSoft, like Composer, Salesforce Flow, also within the MuleSoft Flow. So that's something that we will see, and also within integrations, what are the best practices that uh, is needed in RPA. So moving on to the next slide. So starting with RPA. So why is RPA used? So some of the operative keywords I have tried to put it in bold. So RPA number one is MuleSoft RPA, and in general, all RPAs from different applications are used to automate repetitive business processes. The keyword repetitive is very important of RPA. Second, RPAs are used when you want to interact with a system and you cannot consume that application. For example, you do not have an API. In case you have an API, you would not go to RPA. But in case you do not have an API and you want to make it consumable, and how do you make it consumable without having an API, is something that we will go through during the presentation process. Uh, Thirdly, in a MuleSoft environment, why is an RPA used? So MuleSoft makes sure that whatever system you are trying to integrate and the automation that you create through an RPA becomes a reusable asset, right? So keeping those ideas in mind, let's move to the use cases. RPA is used in different industries, across every industry, and the reason being of the solutions that RPA offer. So MuleSoft RPA is apparently a last mile solution for MuleSoft because it gives you access to legacy system. So RPA can be used to automate the outdated processes, like the systems which cannot be consumed and can be integrated inside the MuleSoft environment. Second, there are certain screens that you want to access, but you cannot consume it. That's where RPA comes into picture. So what RPA does is it extracts the data from the screen that you want, and then the data from that screen can be utilized further. Third is documents. So for example, say you have a PDF, you want certain context from the PDF, you want certain outlines from the PDF, but you are not able to consume it. RPA helps in consuming those documents. So it streamlines the document processing. So you could read contents from the document, you could read the words, convert it into a payload that you can consume and pass on to your next systems. Now talking about RPA applications. Uh, the first one that we need to know about RPA application is the RPA manager. So what we will do is we will talk about individual applications on RPA as we go on with this particular presentation. Uh, till now, do we have any questions on the first two slides? Because those were the most basic slides on RPA. If there are questions, please feel free to put it in the Q&A or on the chat. Do I see any questions till now? Not yet, right? Because, yeah, of course, we have not reached that point yet. Right. So let's move to RPA Manager. Uh, if you see, this is the particular RPA Manager screen. This is a cloud-based. So let's take a step back. Let's start launching the RPA Manager, right? So there are different ways of launching the RPA Manager. One is you could launch it through an Anypoint platform. So you could log into your Anypoint platform. Let's see. So as you can see, RPA is available inside the automation section of Anypoint platform. So when you enter your main Anypoint platform screen, you could launch RPA from the automation sections. So you go there. And you could launch your RPA manager. So that's one way to do it. Or else you could directly go to your particular RPA URL and you could launch RPA. So once you enter this particular login screen, there are different sections on the left from where you would start your processes, make your development. We will come to the development lifecycle, but this is a application wise how RPA looks on the screen, and this thing is the RPA manager. So what does RPA manager do? RPA manager is a cloud-based control plane, right? So all the tools that talk with RPA are your on-prem tools, which runs on your machine. RPA Manager is a sole tool that runs on the cloud-based portal. Then we have something called as a RPA Recorder. What RPA Recorder does is it documents your requirement in a way that it can be used for further developments. Let's launch an RPA Recorder. So I'm launching it on my device. And this is what RPA Recorder looks like, right? So this is the RPA Recorder UI interface. How it works, what it happens, and how you create your documentations using an RPA Recorder will be part of the RPA lifecycle that will come on the next slide. Next, as I next we have the RPA Builder. What the RPA Builder does is, what you document is what you are going to build. So once you have recorded all your requirements, an RPA Builder helps you build your application. So now let's launch an RPA Builder. Waiting for it to launch. Mhm. Be able to. Let's see why it's not launching. Right. So this is an RPA builder. As you see, the RPA builder has different tabs on it. You will have the project that you are currently working on, the repos that are activated for you. You would have a separate section for your activities. And then, of course, you have the tools that you will use while building your project. So this is an RPA builder. So once you have recorded, you start the process of building. So that's what an RPA builder does. Once that is done, we have something called as the RPA bot. RPA bot is essentially the worker that goes to the system and does your task, whatever you have built on your RPA builder. So these are the different applications which are managed by the RPA manager. So in this entire list of applications, it is very important that your RPA recorder, builder, and RPA bot continuously talks to your RPA manager. So the RPA manager manages, RPA recorder documents, RPA builder builds, and RPA bot is your actual bot that goes and works on the system as per what is being built by the RPA builder. Is it clear till now? It's kind of very silent all around here, so not sure if you guys are able to understand or
It's very clear, Sam. Yeah, thanks.
yeah, yeah, perfect, yeah,
Yeah, Sam, John here.
yeah,
Just a quick
yeah,
question here. So when you say RPA manager is a part of the control plane, right? So obviously it's assumed that it is a separate subscription, right? So
yeah.
this is like, so when you subscribe to this RPA as a whole, all these comes as a package, I believe, right? All these
Yes,
on-prem tools as well as the cloud-based tool, correct?
yes, that's right. So when
So
you buy your RPA subscription, all these three things come for you, and you can download your recorder, builder, and bot from the RPA manager.
okay, okay, all right, okay, yeah, that makes
Yeah,
sense. Yeah, thanks, sir. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Perfect.
I Sam, just a quick question. Maybe you would have covered it earlier, but I think I missed it. Um, so what? See, if a customer goes with the MuleSoft, and then we say that, hey, this is a perfect use case for RPA. So when will we tell the customer that this is the real time use case for RPA? So what, can you give me some real time examples?
Right. So for example, if we go back to the slide, uh, let me see if we can get that slide. Right. I suppose my screen is visible, right? So, in general, RPA use cases can be defined in three categories. One is when a customer has a legacy system. Say a customer has a machine which he cannot reach, right? In that case, what the customer will do is, and say in that machine, he has set of data that he wants to access. So let us take a fictional company. And in this fictional company, the ERP data of that company is managed in an on-prem machine. This is a very old system, and they don't want to replace that system. What And the ERP system that they have is a very basic ERP system. What it does is, at the end of the day, you generate a CSV file, and that CSV file needs to be sent or need to be mailed to, say, XYZ employee. And then what that employee does is, the employee takes that CSV file and puts it in a system. So from an RPA use case, this is this is an RPA use case. So what we could do is, we could have an RPA bot installed in that system. What that RPA bot will do is, it will open that system on that particular system which is not accessible. It will open the legacy application, it will download that CSV, and it will send the mail automated to the person to whom the CSV needs to go. Other than that, RPA can go one more step ahead. Like, for example, say the person who receives the CSV is now putting it in their new SAP system. So what MuleSoft RPA can do is, we could essentially make a flow where we invoke the bot, get the CSV, and directly integrate with the SAP system. So now you don't have a manual intervention in this particular case. So this would be one of the use cases for using RPA.
Okay, okay, makes sense, makes sense.
Right. So
So,
here we are doing, yeah, yeah, yeah. Go on,
um,
Anup.
I would say like it's more like where we couldn't implement an API, and then it's a legacy system where we cannot implement an API. We could go with RPA kind of model.
Right. So that would be one way to look at it. And also there are certain scenarios where you figure out that, do you actually need an RPA or not? That we will come when we are doing the life cycle of RPA. But to give the answer in short, RPA is the last mile solution for MuleSoft, right? So the things that cannot be accessed through an API could be accessed with an RPA bot.
RPA, yeah. All right, thanks.
Yeah, right. So moving on. Let's see. Right. So let's move to the RPA lifecycle. In this slide, what we will try to cover is how RPA works. How do you build a solution in RPA, right? Like, what are the steps? If you had to document step A, B, C, D in building an entire RPA process from end to end, what would you do? So that is something that we would cover in the RPA lifecycle. And also we would try to link that every step is related to which tool of RPA. The first confusion that comes in RPA is, hey, I have 4 tools in RPA. What do I use? When do I use? So we will try to cover that in a very small aspect. We will try to make a hello Calicut meetup kind of a use case and implement it in our RPA lifecycle journey. So let's start with it. The first step in RPA lifecycle is evaluation. You need to evaluate. This also answers the previous question raised by Anup, that how do you know it's an RPA process? Where do you use it? Now you think that this is an RPA process. The first thing that you need to do is, you need to evaluate your RPA process, right? So let's see how do we evaluate it. So for evaluation, we use RPA Manager. So when you reach the home screen of MuleSoft RPA, you can directly see a new link where it says it's a process or evaluation. So let's see, what do we do here? So we click on new and we say, hey, we want to evaluate the process, right? So let's evaluate the process. All right. But before we evaluate, we need to know what are we trying to do here, right? So for that, let's first create our own use case. Mhm. Right. Let's come out of the presentation. Do I minimize this part of the presentation? Let me stop this. And now let's think that this is the fictional um, screen that we were talking about, and this is a system that cannot be accessed. And say here, let's make a new folder. Uh, let's give this folder a name, and let's say Calicut Meetup. Let's open this folder and let's put a document. Let's say, in our case, for an example, hello Calicut.csv. Let's make this a CSV file and let's try to open that. Right, let's save this file. So this is something that we have. So from an RPA perspective, I cannot read the system, but I want to open this folder. So what my bot needs to do, open this folder and read the content of this file. Right. So now let's do an evaluation on this particular process. Let's go back here and let's see how the evaluate cycle works. So what would we do is we'll go here, we'll create evaluation. Let's give this evaluation a name. Let's give it hello Calicut Meetup. So that's the name of my evaluation, right? And then you could create your own template for evaluation, but let's say we use the default template. Then we give what category it falls. Let's say it falls under learning. And we could give some description. This is a demo for RPA, right? So I'll save it. Once I save it, there are certain things that I need to put in my evaluation. The first thing is I need to see that how much. So before we get into that, there are different identifiers in which this evaluation is categorized: costs, category description, and then you have something called as qualifiers and benefits. So first, let's look at cost. The process that we are designing would say roughly take, what do you, for example purposes, let's put 5 seconds. So it takes 5 seconds. And let's say that this is the most uh, simplified cost. So let's put $1. Frequency per month. So in frequency per month, maybe I need to read the CSV file 4 times a day, or say 5 times a day, multiplied by 30. So say 150 times. So now what it gives me is, it gives me the time that I'm spending for doing this manual thing and the total cost that it's costing me to implement this particular RPA. Now let's go in here. There are certain qualifiers for an RPA process to be qualified as a good RPA process. On the right side, you see a process matrix. So in this process matrix, this dot, this black dot is something that we are interested in. So let's say, so let's start with the qualifiers. Nature of work. Is it judgment based or is it rule based? Judgment based would be something like I open a file and I have many sets of data and I have to decide what is the data. But in our case, that is not the case. We can keep it rule based because we want to open the CSV and copy the entire file. So in our case, it is a rule based thing. So let's give it max there. What kind of data are we talking about? What is the input output in this scenario? Is it unstructured or is it structured? Is it analog or is it digital? In our case, digital. Okay, so let's make this more interactive. What would be an unstructured analog kind of data? Like, if anyone wants to give an answer. Hello, hello. Any answers?
Maybe I will try. If we talk about any unstructured data, then a PDF file having a lot of different fields in that which are segregated at like different rows kind of thing or columns kind of thing.
Right. So that would be an unstructured. But where would that fall in this particular level if we have to pick one? So if I say there are two sets, one is you have an image of a bird, right? Like say you have an image of a bird, and every time the bird is different. Or say you have a scan check, right, of different banks coming in. So they would have different fields. So where would that qualify? Like, sorry.
Then that should be like most of the checks. If you say the format are same, but the way people sign or
Right,
so that can be unstructured, right?
right,
And
right,
for the image of bird, again, like we have got different pixels, but again the location of the bird may change or the scenery may change though, so the pixel in that way we are changing, so that can be a unstructured in that way we can say, but if we go with the pixel then that will be structured.
right, right. So that is so those are the right answers. So during the qualifiers, one of the most important thing and where people get RPA wrong is understanding this particular part of it, right? How so you need to again go back to the key identifier of the word where it says repetitive. We need to understand that RPA doesn't have an ML or AI things in it, right? If I tell the bot you have to press this button, it will go and press that button, and it will press the button that it thinks is the button. You cannot train it in a particular language, right? So the two examples that I gave, that, like for example, say in the point of a check, there is something called as an AWS text, right? You can take out the images, you can convert it into a JSON, but you have to see how much the structure is valid, it's same every time, or how much it's not. Based on that, you have to make that particular decision. So in our case, same, like we so it is a digital CSV thing, and we scan everything. So in our case, right, so it will be on the higher side of it. But yes, Abhishek, that was the way that we said that. Stability. So stability is also an important criteria. I have seen people put RPA in particular screens, right? Say you want to access a web page, you go, you train your RPA bot to click the correct images, right and left. You want to click the correct buttons. That's all right. But how many times the web page changes the way it looks, right? So, for example, if you move a button from X location to a Y location, it's gone. Now your RPA won't work, right? So you also have to see that the thing that you're implementing, how stable it is. Because if it's not stable, you would always waste your time in making an RPA process for it. In our case, it's on a desktop, it's in a folder, the location will be exactly the same. So it's stable, minimum changes. Data type. So data type is coming back to your input output. So this is linked. Is it an image interpretation? Is it a text or it's numbers? In our case, text and numbers. So yeah, so data type is good. So now if you see, the dot has moved up here, right? And then you go into the complexity. It is highly recommended that RPA is not used for extremely complex tasks. Like if your task is very complex, you need to have different flows inside your RPA which makes it simple, right? Your use cases cannot be going through the entire browsing history of the page, finding the history, doing XYZ calculations on it, and getting the output out. That is not a repetitive task per se, because it has lot of judgment involved and it is a very complex flow. So what RPA sees is that in in your implementation of RPA, what is the benefit you are getting out of it, and your benefits would be better if your complexity is not highly complex, but it is more towards the simple side. In our case, it's not a complex flow, it's a simple flow. You just need a particular CSV from a system, so you get it done. Output quality. Output quality is something related to the person doing the task. Like, for example, if you have a guy opening a CSV, sending the mail, how many times can he make a mistake, right? So say if you had to open a file, copy particular words and send them across, maybe out of 100 he would maybe do it correct 97 or 98% of times. 2% would be something that he might not do it. In our case, if we want to standardize by this particular thing, we need to know that what if a person misses, right? Like, is that a problem? If he copies a different file and sends it across, is that a problem? Well, in our case, it's somewhere in the middle, it's somewhere here. So it's not like it has no issues and it doesn't need urgent need for improvements, but it would stay somewhere here on your bar. And on your risk, what is the risk if you miss the task? What if anything goes wrong? Is it a low risk or is it a high risk thing? So similar for us, it would be somewhere here, not that low, not that high, somewhere on the higher side. So now when you point these things based upon the RPA task that you want to perform, the process matrix tells you where does your RPA fall. So it falls on the green zone, which is a good zone to implement your RPA process. So we say okay and we save it. Let's see, all the 100. Right. So once I evaluate my process falls under the process evaluation part of it, right? So here I can edit it, I can approve it, I can delete it, and so it gives me those options. So I go ahead here, select it, and now this project needs to be approved, right? So there are two ways you can send it for approval, and your approval would be done by like whoever is checking if the RPA process is as per the RPA best practices. So either you can select a project manager from the list of project managers, or you can have your center of excellence team is your RPA group that works on a particular project. So from a project manager, I'll select myself for that and say okay. So once I complete that, my RPA process is approved. So let's go back and then look at my processes. Oh, right. It's not yet set up. So now once that is done, you go to your process management page and you select your learnings. This is where you had categorized your particular RPA process. Now, once the RPA evaluation is converted to a process, you will have your hello world, hello Calicut meetup thing come up here. So going back here, go to the process evaluation. Wait, where is the, yeah. So now once I approved a process, the once I have approved the like the evaluation part of it, and I have set myself as the manager, that's why this particular process will come in my backlog. So in my backlog, I do have two um, options. One is I could start automating the project, or else I can go and reject the project. So in my case, I'll start the automation. When I start the automation, I get certain fields to fill up. I could keep the same process name. I could write if I need any applications from the process. I could add new team members if I want to add from this. And once I've added those, I can then decide who gets what task, who would do the design, who would do the build, test, and the production part of it. Now, in our use case, I am the sole person working. So this would be my selections for this particular process. Once I've done that, I will do a save. Great. So now we could start the automating part. And here finishes our evaluation part, and we move towards our next part of the life cycle. Do we have any doubts on the evaluation part of RPA till now, of how to start your project and move it till the next phase?
No questions in the QA, but I have a question.
Yeah.
When you started the evaluation, right, when we created the new one, so there was an option for choosing the template, which you took the default one. So, what is this template about?
So what the template does is you could custom your template, right? The basic qualifiers and benefits that fell were the standard qualifiers and benefits, right?
Okay.
So as an organization, you say no, I don't want this qualifier, or I want to add another qualifier, or I want to set up a different benefit, then that can be there in the template.
Okay. And when you chose the applications just before this automation step, there were only some three options.
Yeah, that is because I had wrote only three applications before. So applications could be anything. So it's not a drop down. They are the list of applications that you set up here. So like for example here, right, your process application, so you can go and you can create your application, right?
Okay.
So now for example, if I say desktop is an application on a client side, right? So I could write that, I can put a version, and I could put some description. So this is more for the person working after you to understand that, hey, do we have access to this applications or not,
Okay.
right? So now if I save it, it will create a new application called desktop for client. And
Okay.
now when you create a, for example, you go back home and you create a new evaluation, select your template and say test, say, and say this is what you have. You select your category, you keep it as it is, you do save, and that's the same process that comes up. You could go here, approve it. Let's say I'm the same project manager, say okay. Right now again the same process, I'll go to my backlogs, test. Here I say start automation. Now you will see the desktop client here. right? In
Okay.
your required applications. So yeah, that's how we get it. And you could also make one and maybe write and enter, and then that would create a new application for you. Let's
Oh,
say
we can
Sam
create from
Soly.
here as well. Okay.
Yeah. So you could do that. And now here in this case, I could either start automating or I could say reject. So I will reject it. I'll say this was a test. Okay. So I rejected that. So it's not in my backlog anymore, right? So it
Yeah.
needs to be evaluated again and checked if it is a correct process, and then it comes back to the automation part of
Okay.
it.
Thank you,
Right.
sir.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Hi Sam, I had a question. So when during the evaluation process, we are selecting certain qualifiers. So is there any metrics to identify that? Okay, this complexity. So this RPA is this complex, or does MuleSoft provide any metrics to identify that uh, thing?
Right. So we need to understand this is a manual task that we're automating into RPM. So there are
Okay.
certain things which are known to us. One, who is doing that task, right? So in general, even before you automate the RPA, you talk to the team or the person who is doing the task, and you check how many steps are involved in it, right? What
Okay.
are the things that he is doing in it, right? And being the one who is evaluating, you have to be honest, because I've seen certain companies pushing RPA, right, stating that hey, like you could get things done, but it's not like that. So the first thing you need to see is you have to see, is it repetitive enough, right? That is the first thing that you judge. And
Mm.
if it is repetitive, how many steps are involved, right, for doing that job, right? In our thing, what we saw is like a three-step job: open it, take the file, close it, right? It's a simple three-step job. There could be events involved which has like 40 steps. More steps, more the complexity of getting it done, right? Because your variables increase, right? One is that. So from that you could judge. Second is, if you have a user working on a system, my pixel resolution and your pixel resolution would be very different, right? So when I have a bot working on a system, the resolution of the screens, the amount of dynamic components that the RPA is working with has to be as minimal as possible.
Mm. Okay, makes
So
sense.
based on that, you could set up your metrics. MuleSoft doesn't have a guideline metric per se, because it depends upon the one who is implementing RPA on the premise, right? So what MuleSoft states is, if you have a bot, if he can work consistently on different systems, then it is a stable bot that you are having,
Mm.
right?
Okay.
So if it works on my system, doesn't work on your system, it's not a stable bot, because again you have to train the bot to work on your system.
Yeah,
Yeah,
got it.
yeah,
Thanks. Thanks,
yeah,
Sam.
yeah, yeah. Right. Yeah. Any questions? No? Or we move on and maybe we'll see. Right. So going back on the presentation part of it. So right, we finished the evaluation phase. Now we move to the design phase. Design phase is something where now you need to design your actual implementation. Now, how do we run the design phases? Let's go to the point from where. So we have this in my backlog. You can launch this process. It opens it. At the bottom, you have some options. So let's take a step back. On top, you can see the next phases that it will go to. It will go to design, build, test, and then production. So from design, how do you go to build, test, and production is the next part in the life cycle that will come we will talk about. There are different ways you can save this. So this particular design can be saved. You could export, you could import a different design, or else you could start your recording. So now what a recorder does is it will record your requirements. So let's take a look. If you press recorder, it will give an option to open your recorder. Okay, let me close this. I already have that open. Now let's launch that again. Say open recorder. So once you hit from here, your recorder, which is in your system, it will open. So let's try to access it and say login. Right. So once you log in, you have this option. You could see here, you could start recording. So now what we will be trying to do is we will try to, let's end this slideshow. And now we will try to record this part, right? So let me minimize that. And here, say start recording. And now I will put my thing. Oh, let's give a task name. Read.csv file, right? And I add the task. As soon as I add the task, my recording has started. So let's see. Oh, it's on my other part of the screen, right? So I'll do this. I want to open this. I will see this is the thing that I want to copy. Now let me close it. Let me close the screen and let me stop the recording. Right. I'm not sure how I could manage that correctly. So now you see that I recorded what we are going to do, and that has generated a process within itself. So this is exactly what recording does, right? So I have recorded that part of it. Now I go here, and if I refresh it, I still don't have anything updated on the process because I am yet to push it up. So I'll go here. I will now, if I maximize the screen, so the activities that you have done is now recorded by the recorder, right? So the recorder is seeing where you went, what you opened. Because I was sharing my screen, you might not have seen certain aspects of it. So it goes here, it finds the target folder, it says Calicut Meetup, it opens, it says in my recording that I want to open this file and I want this content, and then I need to close my file. So this is my task in RPA. So what MuleSoft provides us, it gives you exactly what you want to do by recording your screen. It will take snippets or screenshot of your screen, and it will get your entire data. So it has done this, it has done this, it has done this. So when my requirement is given to a developer, he will exactly know what he needs to do. You can go here and you can write your details. You can edit this and you can write certain parts of it that you want to write, right? So for simplicity purpose, we're not doing that. And once that is done, you upload this to the RPA manager. Right. Go back and then let's see if this is uploaded. We'll just refresh this page. Right. So now what you have seen is our design part is complete. We have designed what kind of process we want here, right? And that same thing you can read on your RPA manager itself, what we did just see on the RPA recorder. So this completes the design life cycle for the RPA part. Do we have any questions on the design part?
Looks like no questions.
Just one question,
Yeah,
Ian here.
yeah.
So we saw the recorder basically for the screen capture. Is there
Yeah.
any other thing that RPA can do other than the screen record, other than recording the screen? Any other
So
capabilities?
so what you could do is using the recorder, like say you have a click and open kind of command, right? That you want to do, right? So what RPA recorder is does is that it will take that session, and when you put it to the build phase, just by playing that, it could do the same task again, right?
Okay.
So there are certain components inside build phase which the recorder automatically records and creates for you. But in most actual use cases, we only use that for documentation, because your click and movement may not be stable every time, right? Your folder location might change, right? Where you're looking at the things might change. So it may not work consistently, but it works as the first step of doing your build.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, sure. uh, Anyone else, or we continue? I guess we continue, right? So once this is done, I've completed my design phase. I know exactly, hey, this is what I'm going to do. I move it to the next stage, which is the build stage. So let's go there. Here is what the application comes, Fatima, right? Now, when I move it from a design phase to a build phase, the next person coming in would know that what applications are needed for doing the build. So
Okay.
So right now we don't have anything as such, so we just confirm. I say release to build. So it is publishing, and now it has moved it to the build phase. So while building is when we use the RPA builder. Here, if you see, you don't see that process right now, right? Like for example, the name of my process is hello Calicut meetup. I don't see that because I just need to refresh it. So when I refresh it, it will automatically come to my RPA builder, and I can open my download my project. Yeah, takes a while. There you go. You get your stuff inside your RPA builder. So until it is moved to a build stage, you won't see it in the RPA builder. And if say the assigned user, while assigning to develop it, I was not assigned as a with the build privileges, I will not see it in my repository right now here. Right. So now when I select this particular task, this is the bot task that I want to do. Answering the previous question, you can see that certain steps are already highlighted inside my task, right? So if I run this, it will run these steps and it will close the task. Yep. So here, coming into the build, so in the build workflow, the workflow is divided into three categories. One is the initialization. We will come to that. Second is the workflow. This is where you will actually design your RPA flow. And the end is the finalization. Here you could have your error handlers and certain things that you want to do in your advanced RPA part of it. So right now for the basic RPA use case, we use the activity workflow. Here now, like I had just previously explained, right? This pointing your mouse, clicking something, opening it would be might not work during a repetitive process. So for that, what RPA gives you, it gives you a list of toolbox. So this toolbox, when you browse it individually, it has many different options, many different tools that you could work with, right? So in my case, I want to do is I want to browse to a folder and read a file and take the contents. So I need to move towards the file operation part of it and see, hey, what are the file operations which I could do? So here I do see it gives a direct out of the box, out of the shelf solution to me to read a text file, right? So let me just move it here, up there, because I created the process. I know what are the processes and requirements I need. I'll just delete this off, right? And now I say, hi, I want to read a file, right? So here I'll go here and I have certain parameters to fill in. So let's fill that. So what it says is I need a directory path and a file name. Hey, I have both of it. So let's close this. We don't need that, and we don't need that. So see, this is the path that I want. I copy it. I go back to my builder. I say, right, that's my directory path. Okay, but it says, hey, you also need a file path. So let's go back. Let's use that. And let me use a Word document to paste all of this infos because it is going to be used afterwards. So I have these information. So let me put it separately with me so that I can fill in the details. I go here. I need this as a directory path, and I need this as a file name. Copy, 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 copy. Come on. Right click, copy, paste. Right. I say okay. So now I have an out of box tool to do that. Now, but this has read the file. After reading the file, it should do something, right? So for simplicity purpose, we will use a message box. Let me see where we have a message box. Yeah, we have a message box. Put it on a message box. And in message box, you could select what you want to do. You can go here, you can click this pins and do the selection, or you can directly make the selections from here, right? Now, because you have a previous read from text file operation available here, you can go here and say what your title of the text box should be. So I'll just say the file name, right? And what text should be there in your message box. So let's say the red text, what all is read from it. So I do that and I save it. Great. Now, once this is done, I want to check if this flow is working correctly or not. So that's something that I want to test. So that can be done with this particular field. You can run your workflow and see if your workflow runs. Let's see. Now deploy that. If you see here, I do get the content of my CSV inside the message and my title here. Done. So that's finished, and then I get my flow back. So this was a small demo of how we develop a solution based upon the design on the RPA builder. Do we have any doubts? Will this be able
We
to
have a
run?
question from Swati.
Hmm.
So, will you be able to apply any small logics like checking and changing up the header or data, etc.?
Yes, you could do that. Yeah. If you work inside the, if you go inside the tools, you would see you could also write data inside files, right? You could also write to files. It's possible, yeah. You could do that. But generally, it is not recommended to manipulate data. If you are doing that, it's better you make a copy of that file and write your data there. The way the best way to do is using a flow. But for small changes like this, yes, you could do it by RPA.
Okay. Swati, I hope that answers your question.
Yep, Sam, John this side. A quick question
Yeah,
here. So, see, one thing I got a bit confused here is right. So initially, what we did was we made a use of the recorders capability to record what exactly we want to do, right? So
yeah,
we fed the recorder what we want to automate. But once you came to this builder, I could see you again manually told the builder from where you wanted to pick the file from, right? So now I'm a bit confused. So what was the need of the recording in the first place then? Because
right.
yep,
Right.
yep.
Right. So from an RPA perspective, the one who is recording might not be the one who is building, right?
Oh,
So
okay.
so
Mhm.
so let's take this in this case scenario. Say I am the analyst in this particular requirement. So I'm doing a requirement gathering of the RPA part of it, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So it is similar from a MuleSoft flow perspective. You have something. So we actually create a raml first, right? uh,
Yes.
but we don't have the flows in, like we do have mock flows in it, but we don't have the actual flows inside, right? Like when we hit the endpoint, that is for mocking and understanding the requirements, right?
Okay.
So it is similar to that. So the first part that we did was requirement gathering, right? Now say from a design perspective, I want to design that how my flow should go, right? So
Okay.
screenshots and those details and the arrow pointing, those things will help the builder to build the solution based upon the design that was
Okay.
given to
Okay.
the developer.
So
So that
basically,
is the reasoning.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, got it, got it. So basically, we should not estimate, that we are just like the same point that you explained in the beginning, right? We should not estimate that the recorder is kind of a training, not it's not getting trained. It's we are just
no.
giving a design what the builder should be doing from recorder, right?
Right, right.
Yeah.
Now, in this case, so recorder is an additional tool that RPA is giving that, hey, if you want to document your requirements, you can document your requirements like that, right? You don't have to go
Mhm.
create a screenshot and make a manual document yourself for the person going to work after you.
Okay. Okay.
In most of the development scenarios, I don't even use the recorder. I directly start with the builder because I know what is the
Yeah, yeah,
requirement.
exactly. That's what I was thinking, because in case we
Yeah,
know, but yeah, that makes sense, right? When you just said the example of Ramble, just like a design phase where the developers want to understand, right? Or maybe the
right.
designer itself won't be the person who is building it. Correct.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Makes
And
sense.
also the recorder has one more thing. Like you saw that there was a flow automatically created here, right? So if I
Mhm.
done a test flow, it would do the same things that I did while doing the recording. So it will
Oh,
also
without
show
even
you
building
which
it.
are the things
Yes.
to be done.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. That makes
Right.
sense. Yeah. Thanks, sir.
Yeah. Right. Any further questions on the build phase? I'll take it as a no. And yeah, let's move ahead. Yeah. Or is there
Nothing
some?
from the chat.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay. So moving ahead, now we have done this same way like we pushed from designer to the RPA manager. We can also push our flow from here to the RPA manager. Come over here. You are now like everything is good, everything is all right. Now you want to send this project back. So that can be done. Uh, So is this flow clear, right? I suppose the flow is completely done and clear. Oh, okay. Sorry. So once you are done with the flow, you could upload the project. So you click that icon there. Here, this is the workflow that is going to be uploaded back to your connected RPA manager. So you can write what changes you made. So it is the initial project, right? You said that. And there is something called as activity parameters. We'll come to that, right? So you done that and you upload your project. Perfect. Now the project is uploaded. You come over here. Let's do a refresh. Done. Now your project is uploaded. Everything that you wanted to do is complete. And now the project is ready to go to the test phase. Now, there are certain things that we need to understand. The first of the things that I said is that RPA can be used in conjunction to different integration platforms that we already have. It can be used with Composer, with our Anypoint platform, and it can also be used with Salesforce Flow. Here, my question to everyone is now say that I had my folder in this particular location, right? Tomorrow I change my location in my source environment where the bot is there. So what do? Do I go and change my implementation again? Because on my builder I have hard coded these values, if you guys see, right? So every time there is a change on this variables, I have to go and hard code my variables. So that is not the recommended way by RPA. There is a possibility of you setting this as variables, and these variables can flow through the RPA manager in your bot and do the task for you, right? So this is how we do it. Does anyone know how we get that done? Like, has anyone used that part before? Yes, no, no.
I guess there is a way of defining variables, and then you're defining like how we do it in our MuleSoft flow, right? If we
Right,
want to make it dynamic, so this is
right,
a way like how we make it dynamic.
right, right. So for that we use something called as activity parameters here, right? So inside activity parameters, you can have your activity parameters and you could add your parameters, the kind of parameters that you want to use. So here we have say two things, right? We have path for the file and you have something name of the file, right? There are two things that are here, right? So what I could do is I can pass values for that here. So I can say that name of my file is this and path of my file is this. Once that is done, I can say okay. Great. Now I save it. Now I come back here and I want to use those things, right? You could, like I said, you could directly use the pin button from here also, and you could do that. But now for simplicity, we'll go here. I go here and I don't see those activity parameters, right? The reason being, for every flow, like for example, this is flow A, you could have a flow B, C, D, like that. You have to invoke that activity parameter in your flow. So you can go here. So these are the global parameters that we made here, right? You select those things from here and you say okay. Once that is done, now your parameters would be available for you here in the activity parameter section. So here we want the directory of the path, see that, and here we want the file name. So go name file and we say okay. Once that is done, you could save your project and maybe try to run it. So now when you run it, it gives you the same output using the activity parameters, what we had in the previous section. So that's the way. So we did that. Now we need to send it back. So you update it. So you can write updated with activity parameter and upload it back. Done. That's done. And we reach back here, and when we update it, the stuff has moved to the build phase. Now this completes the development cycle for the entire development that we were trying to do here, right? So the development cycle is finished. Now you want to test this. We have actually tested the flow, but when you say test, you want to test it with the bot and you want to move it to production with the bot. So we'll go back to the presentation and we'll complete that part there. So we moved from evaluation, you came to design. From design, you finish the build stage. Now the remaining two stages. One is with test, and the next one is when you move it to a production, and that is the deployment stage. In general, after deployment, there is also something that you want to do is you want to monitor your bot. So these things I have done previously so that we can quickly take a look. And if you see, what we did is we had manager and recorder for design, we had builder to build. Now to test, deploy and monitor, we use the RPA manager along with the bot. So this is the next part of the thing that we are going to see. During the test, development and monitor, we will also cover the integrations part of it, like how I said that we have the activity parameter set up for the bot, and irrespective if it's a composer or it's a flow or it's a MuleSoft platform, you can talk with your RPA using variables. So the variables will pass to your activity parameters, and your activity parameters will run your bot. So this would be the next part of the coverage that we would do. Uh, is it clear till now? And do we have any doubts?
Hi, Sam.
Yeah,
I have a question regarding uh, in the build phase, from the build
right,
phase only. So you have that anypoint manager, and then you develop the bot within the within your machine, right? Now, how, I mean, how does that link works? Because you might need to deploy multiple bots in multiple machines, but you have
right,
one platform. How does that front end understands that where that bot will run? Because you haven't put any machine name or machine IP in the bot. So how does it
right,
know which where it needs to run that bot?
right. So that we will cover in the test phase, right? So till now, what we did is we did a build, and that build is what we tested. That particular flow is what we tested. We have not tested it with the RPA bot yet, right?
Okay,
So that
okay,
part is on the test phase. So in test phase, let's cover that part. If that is the question, then we are just coming to it. That's the test phase of it.
okay.
Uh,
And one more question as well.
yeah,
How easy it is with the PDF or the image file to automate these kind of things? Because we are seeing that with text files, but what
right,
happens if you have a PDF and you need to extract the details
right.
from there?
So on a PDF, you can have two type of PDF, right? One is the typed one. Typed one works perfectly fine. There is no problem, right? Second are the handwritten notes. Now, handwritten notes are something that you need to write in a certain way. Like if you have an extremely bad handwriting, right? It's it it gets difficult while scanning it, but it can still be done. How it can be done is on the back end there is something called as an AWS text extract operation that works. So what AWS text extract does is it takes in your scanned images. It could be your scanned image, scanned PDF, or whatever your file pattern is. Then it will convert it into a JSON format, and that JSON format is then your output payload that comes in. So to answer the question, all of that can be achieved, and I think there is a development within MuleSoft that is happening now, which is called the IDP, Intelligent Document Processor, which should be available with your Anypoint platform. So what IDP does is on the back end of it, it uses RPA, but it does the same thing. It takes your PDF, scans your PDF, then you can select the fields that you want from your PDF, and it gives it out as an output. Once you do that and once you publish it, uh, uh, that particular point exchange what you have published can be used as a connector and can be reused within your Mule flows.
Okay.
Did I
Okay.
did I
All right.
answer your question, or was it a long answer?
Yeah. 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 No. 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 You did. You did that.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you very much.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Perfect. So yes, it can read. Moving before we move on, any other questions? Sorry. No. Right. So we will continue with it. So let's move. Let's publish this to the test phase. Test. I confirm. Release to test. So now it is trying to publish it to the test phase. A new window appears. You go here, and then you can create a test plan. So here, once you reach this particular page, you need to do something is you need to create your test plan, right? In a test plan, you can give it a name. Say hello Calicut. This is a test. You say next, and then it has your automated activity parameter. So like I said, if you want to change your parameters, you can change it from here, or else you can link it to the global activity parameter, which is your variable. We'll come to that. Then you can go next. Are there any user tasks? Ours is only bot task, so we'll do next. Here is what you do your execution. You can, like, if I'm not using a secure session right now, I'm using this particular RDP session. So I go next, and then there are different deployable bots that are available for your test phase, right? So this is my system which is available. So you select that system, and then you could apparently do a finish. So Ayan, I think this answers your question, right? Like, how do you select a bot for your
Yeah.
implementation, right?
Yeah.
So now
Yeah.
within the test phase, this is how you do that. So now I have created this particular test plan with these parameters. Uh, do you have any questions till now on the parameters, or like what we do, why we selected what we selected? All questions are welcome.
What's the user task?
User task would be something like if you create a flow, right? Like inside your RPA build. And in that flow, like I said, like you have a handwritten document, right? In that handwritten document, if your confidence level, so on the backend of AWS Extract, you can set your confidence level that how well the machine understand what is scanned. So in that particular handwritten document, in we have a standard of setting it at 85%. If there is anything which is scanned less than 85%, then you need a human intervention to say that, hey, what you scanned is the correct value or not. That time we can have a user task. So until the user approves, the bot will not finish the task.
Okay.
Yeah. Uh, in
And is
in
there
our case, yeah, yeah,
and is
yeah.
there any
Sorry.
timeout here as well? Like, let's say you saying that I saw there's a option to send an email, but
Yeah.
let's say you didn't get a answer for the from the user. Uh, how long that bot will wait? Will there be a timeout?
So that needs to be handled in the third section of the bot, right? Like if say it goes above a particular time, there is also a section where you could have a timeout set, and when it's set to timeout, it goes to a different flow. So it can be handled within the flow. So the way I would handle it, that is not processed, but that is kept aside, right?
Mhm.
And whenever the user goes and clicks that, then there would be a different flow that runs and makes those document accessible.
Okay. Okay. Understood. Understood.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. So, well, we have that. So let's cancel it. So we already have a test. Let's say I now I need to start a test. So I select it and I say execute. The point here is because it's not a secure session. Okay, it worked. So here you see that it gave the same thing. You close it, and that's it. Your test has worked. There is also a statistic which is available here. If you update it, it now says that which bot has run what configuration. Is it a success? Is it a failure? And overall implementation is seen here. So if you go here and if you look at the logs, it will tell you what it did, what the bot did, right? It read the CSV file, it ran the messages, it processed the result, and that's what the bot did. So now your test phase is complete. Now, if you're happy with the test, we could move it to a production phase. Are we clear till this point?
No
Yes.
questions in the chat. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. So once we have finished the test, we move to the production mode. So for production mode, there were certain pre-settings that had to be done. I'll show how to move this to production, but I already have a sample production running. So if we set this to production and say release to production, there are two configurations that could be created. You could create a normal run configuration, or you could create a invocable run configuration. So in my sample, I've created an invocable run configuration than a create run configuration. So what is the difference between create run configuration and invocable? Invocable, as the name suggests, the moment you put it into production, there will be an asset created in your anypoint exchange. And whenever you call that particular asset, uh, that time your RPA bot will be started, and it will do what it does and gives you back the result. In a create run configuration, the RPA bot runs on a scheduler. So if you say your bot needs to run 2 times a day and you set time for that scheduler, the bot will automatically initiate and run during those 2 times a day. So now if you select a create run configuration, you have these things. You have a settings, we'll give it some name, go next. The same activity parameters, next. User task, next. Execution, where you want to execute, next. The process trigger execution. This is where you add your schedule. You can go here, you can add your schedule, and then you could say a next. And when you go to next, similar to test, it will have bots where you want to uh, set your process to which bot. You could select the bot and it will move to production. So this is on the production aspect. Second, in the production, what is an invocable run configuration? So if you go to invocable run configuration, similarly goes next. You have your activity parameter, next user task, next execution, and next to the bots. So here, if you see, you don't get the scheduler option if you want to set it as a scheduler or not. Here, the moment you move it to production, it will create an asset inside Exchange, and that asset can be used to call your bot. So these are the two ways of moving your implementation to production. Uh, do we have any questions on this? If there is, then yeah, yeah, yeah. The bot that we created has version control. Bot doesn't have a version control, right? Right. Yes. Like like for example, from a change log perspective, you can see what was changed here, right? So there is a change log that keeps adding. Got it? So it moved. So this is exactly what we did. We moved from design to build, what time, when it happened. Then you have your first hit, right? Then you updated with the activity parameter, right? Then you moved it to the test phase, you moved it to production phase. So all your change logs are set here on the particular implementation that you're looking. But from an asset point of view, the asset remains the same, right? If we are changing the asset, or we so there are two aspects to this question. One, does the bot have a version? No, the bot is a bot. It does the predefined task, whatever is there in the RPA manager that is sent to it. The bot will always do those tasks. But the change log is something that you can refer to if there are changes. Well, bots, so we need to know that first of all, this particular deployment that we are doing won't be a CI/CD deployment, right? So bots would be one asset that is there. It is like you accessing a page, right? So that is what the bot does for you. So in the use cases that we have worked, we don't change the bots continuously. We always have that bot, and maybe say, like, in an actual customer use case, we have changed it maybe like twice for certain implementations. That's all. You manage your activity parameters and everything through a global variable. I'll come to that global variable part, right? The activities of bot remains the same. Only the dynamic variables or the dynamic values that you send to it might change, right? And that is handled via RPA manager. Yeah, yeah. So also one more parallel that if I could give you is like, from MuleSoft, RPA would be more like a system layer, right? So in that particular system layer, it's like accessing a piece of information. So you don't have to change that part of how it accesses. Oh, sorry, you might need to change how it accesses, but not what it accesses, right? Right. So going here, I already have one asset in production. So let's look at that. My processes. I think this was the one. So now if you see, this is a previously set asset that I moved into production, right? I just wanted to show what were the things done on this. The important part is the activity parameter. So here, if you see, I have linked this activity parameter to a global activity parameter. The question is, where is it? So if you go here in global variables, here you can assign your variables, you can create your variables. So I do have different variables here, like say file name, machine local, and this were like the previous ones, right? And this, like for example, this path and this file is the one that I have already created in my D drive. So apart from the one that we created on the desktop, I have something on the D. Inside meetup, I think I have hello meetup.txt. So this is a previously created CSV file. So let me see. So inside D meetup, so I have given the path, and here I have given the file. So this is inside my global variables section. And like I stated previously, I do have all of my in my processes linked to that particular variable, and this thing is already in production. So once you move that into production, you get an asset uh, generated for it, right? So let's see now how to use that particular asset. So while calling an asset, let's move to Exchange. So here, if you see, an asset is created when you create an invocable production configuration, right? You create that, you get your endpoints, and you can take a look at your summary of your endpoints, the endpoints that you have. So you have your endpoints. So the asset gives you a clear documentation of what needs to be set. So you would need an API key. The API key is something that you would create inside your RPA manager. And then you have something called as your callback URI label and input arguments. Right now, we are not using a callback URI or a label, but we are only passing the input arguments in file path and file name. And that path and name is the one that is decided, is set here. So path and the name. You go here, you set that up, go, and on this post, you have your body, and body will have a path and a name, and you hit a send. The moment you hit a send, you get an execution ID. You can copy that execution ID. You can go on your get key, put the execution and send. So here you will see the current status of what is it, because it just pinged me up. So it's still running. You say close. Hopefully it would have finished. You select with that event ID again, and then here you see what was the result, and you get with an execution ID and status of it if it's a success or a failure. The same thing is something that you could also see in your RPA manager. Inside RPA manager, if you go to your my processes and launch your RPA, say I think this is the one in production, right? Hello meter. So you go there. Here, let's see, last 24 hours, just update it. You have 3 successes. Similarly, you go here and you take a look at the log. You can see what the bot has done. So this is how RPA would work at the end when you move to production. And that's how you would integrate your processes with different integration scenarios. If you want to use a Salesforce Flow, Composer, or a MuleSoft platform. So if you want to invoke it, you invoke it like this. And if you want to run it via a scheduler, you could also run it via a scheduler. So yeah, this was the overall life cycle of RPA, how RPA works, and a very basic use case about RPA. Right.
Yep, Sam, John here. Yeah, yeah. A quick question regarding this is, see, we say that, right? Whenever we spin up something in cloud, behind the hood, we have an EC to getting spun up, right? So when you say a board, what exactly is that? When we talk, maybe it's an industry standard something. What exactly is a board? Because when you say it's hosted in the cloud, right? So what exactly is performing these operations, or?
Bot is not hosted in the cloud. So bot is something that works on prem, right?
On-prem. Okay, okay, okay. Yeah, that's
RPA
great.
manager is the cloud hosted control plane. So your
Mm-hmm.
bot will do task on what all on what you are implementing it on, right? If you could put it on a server, you could put it on a system which is not accessible, and
Mm-hmm.
bot will create consumable assets that can be used and send it to RPA manager. And RPA manager is the entity that talks to different integrations.
Okay, okay. So maybe in another way, I can call bot as a process, right? A process that helps to connect with RPA and carry out this execution, whatever we are asking it to do, right?
Right. So
Probably.
bot
Yep.
is an execution that happens on your local system, and
Mm-hmm.
the execution result is sent back to the RPA manager. And
Manager.
using global variables, we could access that result back.
Okay, okay. Got
Yeah.
it, got it.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Right. Any further questions? I mean, in general, did you understand how RPA works, the entire life cycle? Where would we use it? How do you spin it up? Yeah, just in general.
Yes, Sam, I think this is like a very detailed but still a simple explanation for a
Yeah.
complex topic.
Yeah, so RPA is a bit complex topic because there are different tools involved in it, right? Like it's not a one set tool. So you have one cloud tool and three on-prem tools, and it is very important to understand what is the use case of different tools. So once you understand that, it's apparently your creative mind, right? How do you use it with a toolbox which is available on a builder? Yeah,
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
right. I think we went a little, I think 20 minutes over time, right? That was
that's okay, but we had a very nice session.
great. All right, then that's it from me. If there are no more questions, yeah,
Yeah. Uh, okay, I'll take over from here.
yeah. I'll just stop sharing.
Looks like we don't have any more questions in the chat, and yeah, even if you have any questions in future, please reach out in LinkedIn. Um, yeah, and thank you, Sam, once again. Thank you so much for this wonderful session. It, you know, I I never thought it would be this easier to understand.
Thank you.
Yeah, so your explanations were very great.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
And
yeah. Again, to yeah. Sorry, Fatima. Sorry for cutting you off. But just to add on top of that, right? Even I have gone through blogs and other articles related to RPA, and though it looks easier, right, Sam? The more we read about each of these independent tools, right? I always had this thought that it was a bit complex, but the way you explained, right? I mean, even though they are the basics, it was very much easier to relate. Even though maybe not everyone got the 100% of what you wanted to convey, but still, we are good with the basics. I believe. I think everyone
Yeah.
was able to capture it. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. So the idea was once the basics are out of line, if we do a second session, that would be
Correct.
more on the advanced aspect of it. Like one of the questions I got is CI/CD. Though
Mhm.
we have not done CI/CD on RPA, my understanding is why is it possible? Is it not possible? So that would be uh, one thing that I am taking back from this particular meetup, right? Like, should it be done? Can it be done? So those are two different
Mhm.
questions,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we
One additional thing to ask you, Sam, because we are planning for a second session, right? Is there anything that you recommend all of us to maybe read through or some articles, which you think, would be beneficial to maybe furnish what all we have gone through today? Something.
right. If you understand the topics that I covered right now, that
Mhm.
should be it, right? That is enough to understand RPA. Like, so
Okay.
we
The
did
basics,
from
right? Yeah.
the yeah.
Mhm.
So we did from the beginning of gathering requirements. That would be the first step, and
Mhm.
moving into production and what we do in production. That would be the last step. So the life cycle remains the same, but you could always go through the MuleSoft articles on RPA. There is an RPA documentation available that can be worked with. One of the limitations of RPS is right now it only works on a Windows system, right?
Oh, okay,
So
okay.
that is one thing about RPA. So once you go into the details of it, right? I didn't pick up the nitty-gritties of it, but once you go into the detail of it, you will see what it can do, what it cannot do. And once uh, everyone is clear with that, maybe we could do the next session. And also, I think we should ask from audience what would they want to do
Mhm.
as an advanced concept in RPA.
Yep. Yes. Yep. Probably when everyone sends in the feedback, right, guys? All the participants, when you get the feedback form, I think you have the option to even, write in what all things you expect for the next session, right? That would help Sam, right? Yep.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yep. That's a
Right.
good point, Sam. Yep. Thank you,
Like
Sam.
uh, like one of the use cases in RPA is payment processing. Payment processing is one of the standard use cases in RPA. Like across industries, payment processing is done through RPA. So you have this incoming documents with different kind of payments, right? Like there is a person sitting and doing that. That that adds a lot of value in different industries. So, yeah,
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Makes sense. Yep.
yeah,
Yep. Thank you, Sam. Thank you so
yeah,
much. Yep.
yeah. Right. Right.
Thank you so much, Sam. And once again, just like John suggested, please fill out the feedback form, even for those who are gonna watch the video.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I suppose we need to have more participation, and I think because of the weekend part
we
of it,
can.
right?
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe next time we can have it on a working day,
Oh no. Yeah,
later time. Yeah,
yeah. Let's see. Let's see.
because we had so many registrations, around 75.
Oh, right. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had around 75 last time. After these coupons and all those things stopped, we used to get around 50, 55 usually.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
but this time I think maybe because the topic is RPA, we got around 75 and all.
Oh,
Yeah,
right then.
yeah. Okay then. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you, everyone. Thank you for
Yep.
joining me.
Thank you. Bye
Thank you.
bye.
Thank you, Sam. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.